Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to add the next 10 creature cards with converted mana costs of 8 or more into our Momir Vig Cube. Greetings and salutations, MTGBC. That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment in our ongoing Momir Vig Cube series. If you are unfamiliar or just need a refresher as to the goals and purpose of this series, search in the description below for a link to MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And while you're down there fishing in the description, you can also click the link to Cube Cobra, where you can view the contents of the cube as it stands right now. So here we have it, 10 creature cards with converted mana costs of 8 or more. Of the 100 creature cards that are represented in this tier, you have a 1 in 3 shot of summoning a creature with a converted mana cost of greater than 8 to your side of the battlefield. We'll see some of them in this video today. The first one fits that description. It's a mono red dragon. It is the Lava Field Overlord. 5/4 with assist. The assist mechanic will not be utilized in Momir Vig because every creature is summoned as a copy randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. What you end up with when you throw 8 mana into your SIMIC Visionary Avatar, you get a 5/4 flyer that when it ETBs, it deals 4 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Not exactly the kind of power and toughness or mechanic stats that you'd like to see by investing 8 mana, but the 4 damage to target creature and opponent controls should not be overlooked, particularly because in a format like Momir Vig, where there are no instant or sorcery spells, any creatures that can deal damage and get rid of any other creatures could be very, very valuable. All right, number 2 with a CMC of 8, we have Lycia Sanguinetribune. 4/4, we have to ignore its cost reduction, of course, because, like we just said for Lava Field Overlord, all creatures are summoned randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. This is a 4/4 vampire soldier. It has first strike. It has lifelink. And we can pay 5 life to put 3+1/+1 counters on it, but we can activate this ability only during our turn and only once each turn. Now, 5 life is a pricey investment to pay, particularly in a format where we're only starting with 24 life. Now, having a 7/7 first striking lifelink, a first striking lifelinker is a good way to get that mana or to get that life lost right back on to your life total. But 7/7, it doesn't have any kind of evasion, but every single time you're turning it into combat, you're going to gain 7 life some way outside of a creature having protection or indestructible. Lycia Sanguinetribune is one of those creatures that's going to give its summoner quite a lot of options to do with it on their side of the battlefield. All right, creature number 3, a mono green edition, which could end up being a game ender. That's Liege of the Tangle. We have an 8/8 trampling elemental that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may choose any number of target lands you control and put an awakening counter on each of them. Each of these lands is an 8/8 green elemental creature for as long as it has an awakening counter on it, and they're still lands. This creature's ability is a lot easier to reconcile in a format where someone can't cast Damnation or Wrath of God. So you send Liege of the Tangle into combat. Let's say you had your 8 lands that you were able to tap to summon it. You wait until your next turn, you send it into combat, it strikes an opponent's life total. And why aren't you making every one of your lands an 8/8 elemental? Because if you do that, next turn you pretty much are going to win the game. Creature number 4, back-to-back mono green editions, we have Living Hive, a 6/6 for 8 with trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens. This is Momir Vig, a format that is dominated by creatures, 1,500 of them in the cube. Any creature that can create any creatures should be highly coveted and gives its summoner a huge advantage at the table. Reaching the halfway point here, we have a somewhat, can we even say it? Yeah, I suppose we can say we have a way in which to get rid of some creatures from the battlefield. This mono red edition of Living Inferno, an 8/5 elemental. We can tap it, and it will deal damage equal to its power divided as we choose among any number of target creatures. Then each of those creatures deals damage equal to its power to Living Inferno. So Living Inferno gets to pick a fight with a lot of other creatures, and it most likely will not survive just having a toughness of 5. However, spreading around 8 points of damage to a bunch of different creatures as a way in which to get them off of the battlefield, that can be considered a potential game-winning move when you think about the number of creatures that could be on the sides of their opponents that are causing all kinds of havoc during the game. Creature number 6 in our first and only mono blue addition to the cube on this day. It is Lorthos the Tidemaker, 8/8 with a CMC of 8. It is an octopus, and whenever it attacks, you may pay 8, and if you do, you tap 8 target permanents, and those permanents don't untap during their controller's next untap step. And notice that those tapping of permanents happens before the declare blocker step. So you can send Lorthos the Tidemaker into combat, tapping down an opponent's entire board of creatures, and know that you're going to hit for 8 points of damage, and then those bad boys are not going to untap during their controller's next untap step. Lorthos the Tidemaker is as close to a slam dunk game-winning creature as you're going to find in this cube. All right, our third mono red edition, creature number 7, is Magmatic Force. All right, who wants to throw lightning bolts around like nobody's business? Because that's what you're going to get to do at the beginning of each upkeep. This 7/7 elemental with a mana value of 8 reads at the beginning of each upkeep, not just your upkeep, at the beginning of each upkeep, Magmatic Force is going to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Now, at this point in the game, when we're getting to the last level of the cube, there may not be a ton of creatures on the battlefield with toughnesses of 3, but there should be a lot of opponents out there whose life totals are closer to 0 than their starting life total of 24. Magmatic Force is a great way to squeeze those life totals just a little bit tighter, making it that much more difficult for our opponents to win the game. Creature number 8, our second multicolored creature of this video, we have Molder Hulk. It's a 6/6, and we don't even look at the undergrowth mechanic because, as we stated a couple of times already in this video, all creatures are summoned randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. When Molder Hulk ETBs, we can return a land card from our graveyard to the battlefield. Now, this is a CMC of 9, so we are getting more for our mana investment, but we also have to look at what we really end up getting is a 6/6 with no evasion and no other ability than putting another land on the battlefield under our control. Maybe we needed that land to activate one of the abilities of our creatures because the MTG BC did not do a good enough job of balancing the basic lands in their basic land library. I suppose that could be a possibility, but this is one of those creatures that's going to make you feel a little hurt if you invest that 8 mana and summon a copy of this to your side of the battlefield. But this is an ongoing trend in the Momir Vig Cube, is not every creature is going to be uber helpful or uber powerful. Next up, creature number 9, our first and only mono black edition, we have Necropolis Fiend, another creature with a CMC greater than 8. that is probably going to feel like it's not going to get the mana invested back on the return. It's a 4/5 flyer with the Delve mechanic, but again, Delve is not going to be looked at here because it's summoned randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. We can pay X and exile X cards from our graveyard to have target creature get -X/-X until end of turn. So there should be a number of lands in the graveyard that you could really utilize this tap ability to send some creature to the opponent's graveyard. But the only problem with that is there are not a lot of ways to fill the graveyard in Momir Vig. Each time you summon a copy of a creature to your side of the battlefield from the cube, you do have to discard a land card from your hand. But if we're already at the 8 tier and you've got a copy of Necropolis Fiend on your side of the battlefield, you're probably going to get one good shot to exile pretty much everything in your graveyard and get rid of one of those big, troublesome, problematic creatures on your opponent's side. You are still left with a 4/5 flyer, but for the investment of 8 mana and the potential of offing one creature, maybe more, we'll have to see how that goes during the game. All right. Creature number 10, the last one of today's video and our only colorless edition. It is Pathrazor of Ulamog, 9/9. And you got a mana value here of 11, so you're definitely getting more than your mana's worth investment. You get a 9/9 Annihilator 3, which means when this creature attacks, the player it is attacking is going to sacrifice 3 permanents. And Pathrazor of Ulamog cannot be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. With a beefy 9 power and 9 toughness, it's very likely that an opponent that's going to block Pathrazor of Ulamog is going to end up losing at least 6 permanents. 3 creatures to block the 9/9 and the Annihilator of 3. And there you have it, MTG BC. 10 more creature cards with converted mana costs of 8 or more into the cube. Which are your favorites? Let me know in the comment section below.